Welcome back to Torah on the Go. Whether you are walking your dog or taking a break from work or working out on the Peloton, we welcome you to this moment, this respite from your day, so that we can study Torah together. I'm sitting here with Rabbi Feinstein.
Good afternoon. Well, evening.
And for the first time, you're going to know that I am, in fact, not sitting here with Rabbi Feinstein because I'm in Israel right now with the third VBS mission since October 7th, and we're recording this in advance. We want to have an episode for the last day of Hanukkah to be released. We've already talked about Hanukkah once before. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Hanukkah and Israel. Let's talk about the relationship between Hanukkah and Israel. I'm in Israel, you're here.
Wonderful.
And how did you see, we've both been in Israel for many, many Hanukkahs.
Yeah, it's a glorious holiday in Israel. First of all, I don't mind Christmas. I actually kind of like this season with the lights and the decorations and the music is sweet. But there's something remarkable about walking the streets of a city and seeing no Christmas in December. And that's when I was a student in Israel, I lived there for 2 years. It was remarkable. I mean, it really drove home the difference between these cultures. And then Hanukkah in Israel is quite beautiful. Sufganiyot, that's the Hebrew word for jelly donuts. That's what Israelis eat on Hanukkah. They also eat latkes.
They don't. It's different than just a jelly donut at Dunkin' Donuts. It's a glorious assortment of different flavors and all kinds of innovations and jellies and different
it's
fillings.
Ubiquitous. It's
right.
everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's not just bakeries. Every kiosk on the street, every coffee shop,
right.
Every meeting you go to. I had classes at the university where they would put a giant tray of sufganiyot on it. It's like religiously obligated to stuff your face with these things right. Over and over again. And it's glorious. It's just a wonderful time.
When Blair and I lived in Jerusalem, they would we'd be out at a restaurant on Hanukkah, and then all of a sudden someone screams out, Nerot, Nerot, and then everyone just stands up.
Right.
Baruch atah, and they start lighting the candles. So this happens in public spaces and private spaces. The candles are lit everywhere. It's really it lends you with a different kind of spirit when Hanukkah takes over, because it's far less of the hallmark consumerist Hanukkah that we experience here in America.
Yeah, presents aren't the thing there.
They're not the thing.
Not the thing there. But the ethos is very important. Hanukkah was a holiday, of course, and even before the State of Israel, Hanukkah was celebrated. It became popular here in America for obvious reasons. But Hanukkah really tied very closely to the Zionist story.
That's right.
Because what the Zionists wanted to do most of all wasn't simply to settle a land. They wanted to create a new Jew. They saw the Jew of Europe as passive and as weak and as unable to stand up for himself or herself. That's not exactly true, but that's how they saw them. And they saw in the Hanukkah story a hero, the hero of the Maccabee, the hero of the Jew who fights for his independence, the Jew who fights for dignity, the Jew who wins. You understand that the Maccabees' War in 166 BCE is the last time a Jewish army won a war until 1948. That's right. A long losing streak, almost as long as the Chicago Cubs.
That's right. Well, we're set out now for another 1,000 years.
Well, there you go. That's right. I mean, so the Maccabees become, it's really the Zionist story that raises the Maccabees. And the best example of this is a song that we sung. I learned it as a kid, and I always thought it was some ancient song. But it's a deeply Zionist song. It's Mi Yimalel.
Right.
Because what Mi Yimalel does is take tropes, the guy who wrote it, Rabinovich wrote it, and he takes tropes from the Bible and the Siddur, and he turns them into Zionist memes, right? Mi Yimalel Gvurot Yisrael. The original line in the Bible is Mi Yimalel Gvurot Adonai. Who can retell the glories of God? But here it's Mi Yimalel Gvurot Yisrael. It's all about our power. And the last three words are, Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh hitached ve'akum vayigael. Our people will rise up, will unify, and will redeem ourselves. The Zionist idea that Hanukkah was a time to celebrate the power of the Jewish people to redeem ourselves, to take agency, to take the history into our hands, to become the subjects, not the objects of history. And that's why Hanukkah becomes so very popular in Israel and sweet without presents, right. Without the presents. Simply the holiday itself recognizes this is who we really are.
So I'll offer a teaching that I offered at a recent BJE lunch, and that was I went to Bar Ilan to study books called the Apocrypha, which are books that are not included in the Tanakh. So I had to go to Israel to the most esteemed Bible department to study books in the New Testament and other books that we think very much are our own. And one of the examples of those books is the books of Maccabees. Now, there are 4 books of the Maccabees. 2 are included in the Apocrypha. The first book tells the story, the historical story. It's written in Greek, and for a whole host of reasons, it's not included in the Hebrew Bible. But the first book of Maccabees is 16 chapters long. The story of the war, of the uprising and the revolution and the war and the dedication of the temple, the entire story of Hanukkah that we know is only the first 4 chapters of the book. Only the first 4 chapters. So the whole story of Hanukkah is 4 chapters of the book. I think the reason the Maccabees are the Maccabees is actually what happens in chapter 5. So what you understand is from the first 4 chapters, the Maccabees are alone. Nobody fights with them. They pick up stragglers along the way.
Right.
But it's not like the Jewish people are behind the Maccabees. Nobody thinks the Maccabees are going to win. And then suddenly the Maccabees win. And in chapter 4, they rededicate the temple, and people come to them and say, "Oh, and now we'll anoint a high priest." And the Maccabees say, "Actually, we so appreciate your help during the war that we're actually going to be the high priest ourselves.
We got this covered."
That's right. We got this covered. We so appreciate it. Put it in the suggestion box by the trash can in the back of the temple.
Well, they were Kohanim.
They were Kohanim. That's right.
They were Kohanim. They were
That's right.
priests of the priestly class. They were not of the sect of priests that were Jerusalem priests.
That's right.
But they had the basic qualifications.
That's right. Then in chapter 5, something remarkable happens, and that is the Jewish communities from the northern border, like it could be written today, from the northern border cry out that they're still being attacked by foreigners. The Maccabees have not only no relationship with these Jews, there's nothing in the book that teaches us that they've ever been to the north.
Right.
The brothers come together and have a meeting in chapter 5, and they determine that Simon Maccabee should go up to the north and fight and defend the northern border. That that Jewish community is part of their.
And he wasn't
Israel.
even the fighter.
He was not the
fighter. The fighter was Judah and Eliezer.
Right. Judah stays,
Simon was
right.
the diplomat.
Right.
And he was ultimately the scribe who wrote the book.
That's right. And they do. And they win. And it teaches the entire Jewish people a lesson living in the land, and that is that the Maccabees, although the victory was for Jerusalem and Modi'in and the central part of Israel that they lived, they would actually set out to defend Jewish communities everywhere.
Yeah.
And so much of what we've been through in the last year has taught us that whether you live in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, or whether you live in New York and Los Angeles,
Or Amsterdam or Paris.
or Amsterdam or Paris or wherever it is that you live around the world,
Right.
Jews have to be Maccabees today. We have to set out to defend Jews everywhere. And that's a lesson that the Jewish people didn't have from the Maccabees all the way. If you look all the way back, the last leader that espoused those views is basically King David.
Yeah.
And the next leader to espouse those views is David Ben-Gurion.
And I just want to add one phrase.
Yeah.
So you said it beautifully. We have this obligation to defend Jews everywhere, even the ones we can't stand.
No,
No, I'm not joking.
no, we're a people that loves each other. We don't always like each other.
That's
we love,
exactly
but
right.
we have to love each other.
The Maccabees had every reason to say, you guys are on your own.
That's right.
Because when we needed your help, you turned your backs on us. You were facing those guys, and you were facing Syria. Those were your out. And now those very same Jews come and say, hey, save us. And the discussion is very like, what are they to us?
Right.
And the idea is that there's a deep sense of mishpacha, of familial obligation, even though we have our issues with these people.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that's the only way to be a people. You're never going to have consensus. You may have brief consensus. You're never going to have unanimity. You're never going to have uniformity. But the idea that we have a deep sense of responsibility for each other, nevertheless, as it were. Nevertheless.
And I'll just say, I feel a deep sense. I know you do as well. A deep sense of gratitude for being in this community in Valley Beth Shalom. I know communities have made missions to Israel. I don't know of many communities that have sent so many missions, and so many people have felt so passionately that they wanted to join. And we still have a waiting list for people whose dates didn't work this time, didn't work last time, didn't work the time before, but they'd like to join in the summertime. You would not believe when we go to Israel now how grateful people are.
Yeah.
How grateful people are that our community continues to send mission after mission after mission.
Yeah, we were there during the summer, of course, and it was so bittersweet. It was wonderful to be there, and there is such a sense of common purpose and a sense of as the war was beginning to change, people beginning to see a little bit of light. But it was so sad to walk into a shop, and we knew some of the shopkeepers because we've been going for so many years, and ask, like, where are all the tourists? And they say, there's no one here.
Nobody.
And so I bought my wife a lot of jewelry this summer. You walk into a restaurant, to a cafe, and only a few tables taken, so you offer a huge tip to the waiter and to the chef. There's a bittersweetness to a country that really wants us there, but knows that it's hard to get there now because of flights, and people are afraid. It's a bittersweet experience. So go with our prayers, of course, and bring our prayers, bring ourselves, bring the sense of Jewish peoplehood there.
So on this last day of Hanukkah, no part of the VBS community is walking the streets of Jerusalem and helping the best that we can, and we are thinking of you, and we know that you're thinking of us, because in the end, as the Maccabees teach, we're all family.
Yep. And as the story tells us, the miracle lasted 8 days. There was only enough oil for one, and the miracle lasted 8 days. Then to really look at the fully kindled menorah, Hanukkah, and to really feel the power of that light, and to share the joy and wonder, and to hold our kids close and celebrate with them. Let's fill ourselves with that kind of joy. Maybe that this coming year, the year ahead, the time ahead will bring us peace.
For the last time this season, we wish you Happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach, from our family to your family. We're all one family. Happy Hanukkah.
And go get a sufganiyah.